beautiful day to all of you, our viewers on Cignal TV, channels 8 and 250, and those of you who are watching Agenda this day, the 18th of March. It's a Friday, March 18, 2022. It's another weekend, and I do pray that you are all well, feeling good, and excited about having a weekend. Medyo sana po ay masaya ang inyong kalagayan. Anyway, today we will have an interesting show on two fronts. The Pag-asa, the National Weather Bureau, has officially announced the onset of summer, or kumbaga tag-araw na po. Kung hindi pa nyo na-feel, ewan ko lang kung saang refrigerator kayo nagtatago. But having officially announced summer, we thought it would be appropriate to invite someone to talk about how you can keep cool. And when I say keep cool, hindi po yung mga how to not to get heat stroke, mga ganong klaseng tips. No, we will be interviewing one of my friends. He's a fellow church member and someone who I've always asked about air conditioning. Okay, because he and his family, in fact, his father, Tony, is a good friend also, and they have always given me good advice regarding air conditioning because baka sabihin nyo, agenda, giving tips on air conditioning. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sure you have heard of one or two stories of a fire that started with an exploding aircon because the air conditioner was kept running 24/7 but was never serviced. Nangyayari po yan. And then some of you may be thinking of buying air conditioning for the summer or air conditioners for the summer but are totally clueless. Kasi po, there is a system where you measure cubic meter area, etc., in relation to how many horsepower an air conditioner you will be buying. So, and cleaning, etc. So I decided to call on my friend Christopher Salva of Best Deal Marketing, and he will talk to us about air conditioning, how to maintain air conditioners, and what are the tips. Kasi po, another problem that people encounter with air conditioners is that they don't know how to operate it properly so that they don't end up throwing money outside the window because of high electricity bills. So we will give you that. Yung agenda po is our agenda. We're not concerned about other people's agenda, yung mga politicians. No, the agenda that will benefit our viewers, the public, okay? After that practical session, we will be interviewing and putting a face to Ukraine in the Philippines. Kasi po, many of you keep watching the news, are concerned about what's going in Ukraine, the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, and many of us feel so bad, so sad about it. But hardly anyone I know knows someone from Ukraine because it's not that part of the world where many Filipinos really populate. Masyadong malamig. It is too cold. But I've already found two Ukrainians in the past month, one in person and one online. And we will be interviewing such a person here on the program. We will be interviewing Arthur, I hope I get his name right, Arthur Tselishchev, okay? And he's a Ukrainian artist, he is a photographer, he is many things, a very artistic individual doing work in the Philippines. And we want to find out what's it like to be a Ukrainian in the Philippines, what is the reception he's been getting, but also what are his thoughts and what has he been hearing from his loved ones back home, if at all, kasi nagkakagulo na po doon. But before all of that, let's go to our daily starter for the day. Very practical din po. Daily starter, And let's put it up on the screen, Direk, if you don't mind. Okay. The only way to win with a toxic person is not to play. Okay. Many of you should remember this thought because if you keep engaging, kung pinapatulan, as in as Filipinos put it, pag pinatulan mo yung siraulo, mas siraulo ka pa. Okay? But in this case, you know, if you want to win against a toxic person, just don't play. Okay? Don't engage them. Do not even, sabi nga sa Bible, do not be unequally yoked. Do not walk in the company of such a toxic person. So that's our daily starter for the day. And then let's now go to the front page of the Philippine Star. Okay, today, March 18, 2022, the front page headline, lawmakers insist suspend fuel tax. And this is a very interesting point raised by Marikina Representative Congresswoman Stella Kimbo when she was interviewed in the program The Chiefs here on One News. And she basically said the suggestion of the government to give 200 pesos monthly subsidy for poor families per person will run up to 33 billion pesos. She said that is actually 1/3 of the 105 billion that Finance Secretary Carlos Dominguez said won't be realized if excise taxes are scrapped in the light of soaring prices of crude oil. Kumbaga, sabi kasi ni Secretary Sani Dominguez, hindi pwedeng alisin yung excise tax because may pinaglaanan na yan. We have assigned that to budgetary requirements for 2022. But if you're saying you will give 200 pesos, you're giving away 33 billion. So that does not compute. You say you need it for something else, but you're giving it away, etc., etc. Not to mention the fuel subsidy for Department of Agriculture, LTFRB, DOTR, blah, blah, blah. Okay, top of the front page header, TUCP. Trade Union Congress of the Philippines said government cannot mandate 4-day work week. Whatever the government wants to impose regarding changing the work model or number of days and hours, it has to be in consultation with labor groups and workers. Meanwhile, that photo there of a DTI checker checking the corned beef section of a supermarket. Kasi ayan po, canned meat and milk makers seek price hike because they said the cost of transporting the products have increased. And not just, softly increased, radically increased, and therefore they need to increase prices. That center photo naman that you see is a photo of children swimming, diving, having a lot of fun at a water park resort in San Jose del Monte in time with the announcement of the Pag-asa regarding the arrival of summer. Okay. And alert level 1, likely to stay until Duterte's term ends. And that would be at approximately around June, if I'm not mistaken. Kasi election is May, then June. Okay. And then selfies, handshakes banned during in-person campaign. COMELEC Commissioner George Garcia made the announcement on behalf of the COMELEC that as per the recalibrated guidelines of the Commission on Election, selfies, handshakes banned during in-person campaign. Meanwhile, the photo there, you see President Duterte leads unveiling of a marker at the inauguration of the new Leyte provincial capital in Palo, Leyte. Okay, sana naman matibay-tibay yung provincial capital, hindi katulad nung nangyari nung Yolanda na lahat ng buildings pinatag. Okay, parang Ukraine. Anyway, the photo, the bottom left of the front page, features Miss World 2019 Tony Ann Singh crowning Miss Poland Karolina Bielawska, who won the 70th Miss World title at in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And we have, last but not the least, ayan na po, the Russian ambassador has been besieged, has been harshly criticized by other ambassadors, fellow ambassadors, for his column piece or his article that was printed in the opinion page of the Philippine Star yesterday. The ambassador, the Russian ambassador, wrote that what's happening in Ukraine is a strategic military operation designed for the demilitarization, denazification, and to ensure that Ukraine remains neutral. Binakbakan po siya. His fellow ambassadors from all over the world started tweeting, putting on Facebook their statements of how it is distasteful, it is a blatant lie, it is an untruth, etc., etc. Now, I would like to invite our viewers, if you would, please go to the website or page of the Philippine Star today to read the commentaries of the different ambassadors. And I also wrote a column regarding that particular statement of the Russian ambassador. Kasi po talaga namang medyo pati ako nabastos doon sa sinulat ng Russian ambassador na pinalalabas niyang parang sila pa yung dapat pasalamatan sa ginagawa nila sa Ukraine. Anyway, let's now go to the main part of our program, which is our interview portion. And joining us today is the Vice President for Operations of Best Deal Marketing Corporation, none other than my friend, churchmate, and Kumisan Kakulitan, Christopher Salva. Chris, good morning to you, bro.
Good morning, Kuya Cito. Good morning to your viewers.
Okay, today we are going to be a little more polite and official kasi I invited you to give tips, information to our viewers because summer has been officially announced and pamorningan na ang mga aircon. I'm worried that many people buy air conditioners but don't know their proper usage. Please, if you would, Chris, can you give our viewers an introduction to how to determine the right horsepower, size, etc. of air conditions?
Okay. Kuya Cito, basically air conditioners are heat exchangers. So when you say it's heat exchangers, you get the heat from the inside of the room and you basically throw it out of the room. That's why kapag tiningnan mo nga, basically the window type, it has an inner portion and an outer portion. Diba? When you pass by the window type, pag ginapa mo yung likod, mainit. No? So basically, pag mainit yun, that's good because it's getting heat from the inside and throwing it out. Ang problema, pag bago yung unit, walang problema eh. Usually the case eh. But after 4 months to 6 months to a year, without any maintenance, that's where the problem happens. No? Because like vehicles, you also have to have the units maintained. No? So maintenance, usually, pag bago naman yung unit, wala naman maging problema eh. It's the long term. No? So cleaning, very important. Usually, I suggest to our clients, 3 to 4 months, every 3 to 4 months, for establishments, no, yung mga commercial establishments. Pag bahay, minsan 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
Depends on your location kasi. When you're,
Kasi katulad, kasi
kapag tabing kalsada ka, malapit sa alikabok, more often, no? Pag naman, pag malapit sa greenery and hindi masyado exposed sa pollution, like in Tagaytay area, baka bihira mo buksan yung aircon, di ba? So, actually maraming ganun. We have clients that tell us, palilinis ko ng aircon, but when we go there, hindi naman pala laging ginagamit yung unit. So, we advise them, hindi pa po kailangan. It's more on the hours of use. No? So, and the location where you are. No? So,
okay, kasi like here in Metro Manila, there's so many construction projects, particularly dito sa Ortigas area, Pasig area, and dito nga sa Sala, ako yung tigawalis dahil dalawa lang naman kami ng ate Karen mo, and ako yung walis punas, and ano ba naman, kakawalis ko pa lang kahapon, alikabok na naman. So I guess for the aircon, it's the same thing.
Yes, yes.
The more you use it, the more it sucks in not just the hot air, it also sucks in the dust and foreign particles.
Yes, yes.
Okay, now I have mine serviced, I try every 3 months. Meron bang sobra naman yan or okay lang yan, etc.? You were saying kung residential, 5 to 6 months pa service na. Pero kung kami na mga praning, is it bad na lagi ka nagpapaservice every 3 months?
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest having frequent service if it's not needed, no? Kasi yung mga units natin, plastic parts yan eh. So sometimes the more you take it out, the more you dismantle it, minsan malutong, mababasag, and also yung chemicals, no? Actually, I wanted to share yung sa mga iba kasi when they clean the units, they don't use any cleaners. So para kang naligo na walang sabon, parang ganon. Kasi oo, kasi hindi maraming ganon kasi sometimes tinawag kami and then sasabihin sa akin, kakalinis lang namin 'yan, ganon. So when we spray on the chemical, yun naglabasan na yung mga dumi and everything, no? So I have a picture nga kung ano dapat itsura pag naglilinis eh. So dapat lumabas yung mga dumi niyan. Naiipon kasi our coil is thick eh. Siguro may mga 2 inches thick yan, ano? So when you clean the front part, akala mo malinis na, yung pala sumiksik sa loob lahat ng dumi. So pag puro tubig lang, talagang matatanggal yung surface. On the surface, you are okay. But deep inside, ayun, nandun lahat ng dumi. And then, air is not circulating properly. Yung refrigerant, diba? The refrigerant is cold eh. The refrigerant passes through, hindi nata-transfer sa hangin yung lamig. That's why minsan nag-yelo, 'di ba? Nag-yelo yung aircon natin kasi
sa harap.
Barado na kasi yung coil. Ginagawa, nagtatrabaho yung refrigerant, pinalalamig niya yung coil. Ang problema, yung hangin na dapat magpatunaw dun sa ice na whatever, or yung hangin kasi dapat yung hangin na pumapasok dun with the refrigerant na malamig below zero yun pag pumasok yun. Dapat magkaroon sila ng exchange dun sa coil. Pag madumi yung coil, hindi papasa sa hangin. So hindi lumalamig.
So yung pala yung dahilan ng nag-yellow, because some people have been saying, and then masyadong mataas yung thermostat, masyado yung pinalalamig yung aircon. Ang problema pala hindi yung thermostat, kung hindi madumi yung looban nung coil, yung aluminum grills nung aircon.
Saka may blower rin, Kuya Cito. Hindi lang yung aluminum. May blower wheel yan. So yung blower wheel, may mga blade yan na ganun eh. Now, the blower wheel, pag barado yan, parang gulong yan. Napuno ng putik, hindi kakapit. So parang ganun din siya. So total cleaning talaga yan.
Ayun. Okay, now, how do you determine what is the proper size? Kasi pag pupunta ako doon sa tindahan, dinig ko lagi yan eh. Tinatanong ng salesman, they ask the customer, "Ma'am, do you know how many cubic meters your office is or your room is?" And then, hindi, kasi I know that I've been using 1 or 1.5 horsepower. How do you really determine the correct size?
Actually, to answer that, you have to go into a long computation. Kasi mahirap yan, mahirap sagutin yan. Marami kasi tatanungin pa dapat sa'yo, where are you facing? Are you facing the morning sun, afternoon sun? Ano ba yung bubong mo? Glass? Gaano karami? So, nung nag-aaral kami sa college, engineering, talagang ang hirap ng subject na yan kasi lahat ang metikuloso, ang dami mong yung mga thermal insulating properties ng let's say, hollow blocks ba yan? Pag hollow blocks, mas hindi papasok ang init.
Correct.
Pag yero yan, talagang papasok yung init. So yung mga ganung basically ako ginagamit ko mga 12 square meter per horsepower. Medyo average.
Mm-hmm.
Average. So kasi 3x4 na room, no? Typical room sa atin, 3x4, 1 horsepower. Ngayon, depende sa tao. Pag gusto ng tao mas malamig, you go one step higher, no?
Mm-hmm.
Pag halimbawa wala naman sa budget, baba ka ng kaunti, but hindi ganun kalamig yung area, pero depende na sa'yo. Kaya ngayon tip ko, kung halimbawang mainit na ngayon sa summer, bago tayo matulog, maligo tayo ng and then inom tayo ng malamig na tubig kasi it helps eh. Kasi tayo naman yung naturally, tayo naman yung
nainitan.
Makikiramdam eh. Oo, yeah. Yun yung mga tips.
Now, as far as, yung mga inverter at saka yung mga old school type, kasi depende on who you're talking to, some people will say, oh, inverter is great because you save on electricity, and then some naman will say, naku sir, maganda yung inverter, makakatipid ka, pero it's not as tough or as durable as the old school, old style air conditioning. And pag palaki ka ng horsepower, nagpataas ka ng horsepower, mas malakas daw ang consumption. I think those are the three things that people are wondering. Should they stay with the traditional old model? Meron pa bang nabibili? Parang wala na yata. Number two, what about the inverters? And then number three, is it true that automatic yun na as you buy a bigger horsepower, you will automatically consume more power?
Ganito, the inverters are really great. Advancement in technology, and as with anything, it has its pros and cons. Pros, ganito lang naman, if you're using your air conditioner a lot, then I would suggest using an inverter with the higher capacity. Bakit higher capacity? Kasi since inverter naman siya, ikaw naman magko-control ng consumption with the thermostat setting. With the higher capacity, let's say your room just needs a 2 horsepower, nilagyan mo ng 3 horsepower, mas mabilis lumamig yung kwarto. From dating 10 minutes para lumamig to that portion, aabuti ka lang ng mga 5 minutes, di ba? Once you reach that temperature, magmi-minor na yung inverter. That's what saves electricity, yung inverter technology niya. So parang silinyador lang, RPM lang sa kotse. So when you're getting up 0 to 60, mas mabilis kang makarating ng 0 to 60 in 6 seconds. Kung malaki makina mo, 3 seconds. Once you're there, magmi-minor ka na sa RPM. So maintain ka na lang ng 60. So yung 60 na yun, makakatipid ka na. Lalo na pag halimbawang malamig na yung panahon, the consumption of the inverter, hindi laging 3 horsepower yun. Bumababa ng 1 horsepower, 0.75. Bumabagal na yung hertz kasi 60 hertz tayo sa Pilipinas eh. So it can go down 30 hertz, 20 hertz. Pag humahataw naman yan, hahabulin niya yung lamig, hahataw yan ng 90 hertz, ganyan. So
hindi katulad ng mga old school, pag nilagay mo sa let's say 23 degrees, pagpalo 23, papara na siya. Pero pag bumaba na naman,
pag nilagay mo sa 23 degrees, bababa pa yan ng 21 to 20 bago siya mag-click. Kasi pag 23, kailangan i-average siya eh. Pag bumaba ng ito yung 23 mo, dapat bumaba muna siya ng 23 kasi aakyat ulit yan ng lalampas ng 23 bago uminit. So average mo yung up and down niya, yun yung 23. So ang nangyayari sa non-inverter, mafe-feel mo parang namatay na yung compressor. Ayun, pumalo ulit. Parang alam mo eh. Nafe-feel mo with the inverter. sobrang pino ng sobrang pino ng difference sa temperature, hindi mo masyadong nararamdaman kasi
Okay.
it's maraming sensor.
But why are some people, no, lalo na yung mga technician ba, they say, ay naku sir, it's a headache. It's hard to get parts once they're good when they're good, but
Yes,
when you
yes.
have problems, they become a curse.
Yes, oo. I agree with that. Kami ganun rin. Kasi sa dami ng they keep up with the technology kasi naglabas si competitor nila. Sila rin na maglalabas ng ganito. So ang dami nilang model na nakakalito na. Kami mismo nalilito, anong model yan? Pag bibili ka, out of stock, out of ganyan. So ang hirap talaga with the lalo na yung mga fluctuations sa kuryente. Kasi the more electronic parts you have, the more susceptible yan sa mga problems, no? But they also address that situation, yung mga fluctuation.
Okay.
Naayos naman nila yan, no?
Matanong ko lang, you mentioned that, no, because traditionally it's weird, no, because with the traditional air cons, you start from off to low fan to high fan to cool to high cool. And
Yes.
with the split types, you set it at the temperature, you turn it on, and boom, it's on its own. Now, there are people na permanently on na lang yung nasa cool na yung aircon, and then they just flick a switch para wala na yung ganun-ganun. Is that bad for non-inverters? Yung bang ino-on na lang and nakaset na siya sa cool?
Mas maganda sana ilalagay mo muna sa fan kasi remember, the compressor, it sucks the refrigerant from the evaporator. Yung coil na nakikita natin sa loob. So, maganda, fan muna para yung refrigerant dito sa coil is gas, in a gaseous state. Pag gas state siya, papasok sa compressor, gas, wala tayong problema. Kumbaga sa makina, hindi kakatok, hindi magpo-fuel knock. Kasi vapor ang pumasok eh. Pero once na diretso ka at malamig ang let's say malamig ang panahon, 20 degrees or 21, let's say Baguio, malamig ang temperature sa Baguio, yung state ng refrigerant mo sa evaporator coil mo, saturated, medyo may konting liquid. Pag pumasok sa compressor yun, might be damaging to the compressor. Kasi liquid ang pumasok, masisira yung flapper valves ng compressor natin.
Ayun, okay. So,
kumbaga sa malulunod. Okay. Kailangan painitin mo muna. Oo.
Okay, so Chris, I'll have to ask you to give our viewers tips regarding air conditioning para to get the best out of it. You already have given us a lot of tips. Now, can you just go through your notes and share with our viewers what to do this summer?
Okay. Basically, before just maybe keep a logbook of when you had your units cleaned, no? So, pwede mo dikitan na lang ng masking tape yung unit, when was the last time service, para and then lagay mo next service mo, ganun. And also, kanina, I was looking at Lazada, marami naman palang available na mga aluminum aircon cleaners na pwedeng mong bilhin kasi when they call their normal suki na naglilinis, usually wala silang panglinis na kasi syempre may kamahalan. I saw in Lazada kanina mga 250 pesos. It's a half-liter spray bottle. No? So mo lang kayo na magbigay nun sa maglilinis. Sayang kasi yung labor, mahirap gawin, mahirap magbaba ng unit. Tapos kapag wala namang panglinis, sayang lang eh. So the extra mile lang yun, no? And then yung when you're putting up sa bahay, try to look saan ba yung mga sources of air leakages. So, mga bintana natin, kung may mga gaps yan, kung kaya natin i-seal, mga pinto natin, saan nanggagaling yung init galing sa labas. Kasi it's a war between heat and cold eh. So, try to contain the cold as much as possible inside and the heat stay away outside. Ganun. So, I would suggest insulation or nagdadagdag ng mga bubong. Yung mga window type, maganda yan kung para may bubong. Kung nasa direct sunlight yan, maganda yan, may konting bubong eh. Kasi kahit papaano yung kaha niya, hindi naiinitan eh, no? Also
even for split type?
Yes. So, even for split type. Parang tao rin yan eh, di ba? Ibilad ka sa araw. So maganda rin nasa shade. It will help in the efficiency. Malaking bagay yun. no?
Okay.
Kasi iniisip
Next.
natin, hindi, mainit na yan eh, di ba? Hindi, it will help. Oo, it will
Okay,
help.
next. So, ano yung sinasabi mong switch off other energy generating appliance when aircon is on?
Meron ba?
Oh. Ikaw talagang bata
Switch
ka.
off.
Okay. Anyway, wait a minute.
Ah.
My question. What about long-term usage of air conditions? Kasi sabi ko nga sa'yo, pamorningan na. There are people who have the aircon running in the afternoon and then they keep it running until the evening and then they only turn it off in the morning. And meron bang such concept as, kasi hindi ba may mga nasunugan, sumabog yung aircon. Hindi yun, nasunog yung aircon, etc. What are the causes of that?
Yung sumabog yung aircon, Kuya Cito, sumabog yung compressor. Kasi the compressor has a terminal, di ba? Nandun nakakabit yung kuryente ng compressor. Ngayon, kadalasan, ang compressor malamig yan eh. Minsan nagpapawis yan, tapos kinakalawang yung mga terminal niya. Pag kinalawang yung terminal niyan, and then pressurize yung compressor, weakness, yung metal part nun, magpa-fatigue, sasabog. Pero yung sinasabi, umusok yung aircon, sumabog, ganun. It's the refrigerant that escaped. Sumabog yung pressure sa compressor, sumabog siya, no? So, kadalasan yun, nag-short yung wire, no? Kasi dahil nag-short yung wire, nagdikit, sumabog, and then sumingaw yung usok ng refrigerant.
Okay.
No?
So how long is the shelf life of a standard aircon?
Actually, ang sabi sa akin before, rule of thumb is pag umabot ka na ng 10 years, parang ROI ka na dyan, and then more than 10 years is already a blessing sa mga aircon. Ano? So, usually ganun ang median namin.
Dapat pala bigyan ko ng award yung aking aircon kasi more than 20 years na. Okay.
Well-maintained kasi, well-maintained. Ano?
Okay. Well, Chris, thank you very much for your tips this morning. And I'm sure people will appreciate that. And I do hope that your business flourishes, that the Lord blesses your business. And we will be happy to endorse your company kasi you guys do such good work at Best Deal Marketing. Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you, Cito, for having me.
Okay, that's Christopher Salva, Vice President for Operations of Best Deal Marketing Corporation. And many of you might say, Cito, parang hindi ata political, hindi major issue. Alam niyo po, if you are a consumer who is swimming in your sweat this summer, you are going to appreciate having all of this knowledge regarding air conditioners. We didn't even know na kailangan pala you put an additional shade on your external portion of the aircon because it affects the performance, yung mga aluminum cleaning spray, etc. So anyway, we'll go for a quick break, and when we return, we go to a more serious topic, but also important, just as important as all the other topics we feature here. We will be putting a face to Ukraine here on Agenda right after the break. Welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm your host, Cito Beltran. And at this point of the program, we would like to introduce you to a Ukrainian in the Philippines. He has worked as an international model and fashion photographer in New York, Shanghai, Seoul, Singapore, Bangkok, and many other parts, even Moscow and Kiev. And he travels extensively. He has also worked as a DJ and is an artist who always explores new art styles and media. He is also a partner of A Design Group, along with Tessa Alindongan and Anton Barreto, working on residential and commercial space in the Philippines, and has also been working in an architecture and design firms. But more importantly, he joins us this morning as a Ukrainian in the Philippines. Our guest is none other than Arthur Tselishchev. I hope I pronounce your name correctly, Arthur. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thanks a lot for having me.
Okay, and first question I have in mind is, what has the reception been for a Ukrainian in the Philippines, particularly after the invasion of Russia?
Well, I haven't really received that many messages from my friends and just people who know me, even then as on my birthday. Like, I was so overwhelmed. Everybody's asking, how's my family? How do I feel? How is everything happening? What's the actual truth? And then, I feel like I feel honored and then spread the word and explain what's really happening around. And I really support because everybody knows the Filipinos are so supportive. I think the most supportive people ever and the kindest. So that's why, like, people here, they have a heart for this. And I really appreciate this.
Okay, now, Arthur, how has it been for you? I understand that you managed to get out. Well, I don't think it was intentional on your part. It was just, all scheduled that you left Ukraine 3 days before the invasion, and by then you were in the Philippines, I presume, when it happened. And how has this whole thing affected you? Because I understand that the Ukrainian government has called on all its men 18 and above to come to the homeland and fight.
That's right, absolutely correct. So yeah, I had to go. I had to leave the Philippines for the family emergency. My grandma passed, and I had to really attend this family emergency. And then after that, I was about to go back here to the Philippines for my projects because everything is scheduled and like so much responsibilities to take care of. And then after I left, only 3 days after, the war just really started. Nobody believed it would start this way, that sudden. But then it started really. And then, yes, you're right. People, especially the males, 18 to 60 years old, are really not allowed to leave the country during this time, during the wartime. But I was able to leave. That's why I feel really guilty that I cannot be with my family during the toughest time, which is really hard time. And I want to help them and then support them and then also protect my country. But at the same time, I have this responsibility to attend here in the Philippines to organize some events here. But of course, I have to be with my family in touch all the time. Every night I get the calls with my mom, with my dad and my sister, just to get the updates, to get to know what's really happening, and just to see them, in the normal condition, to see them all together doing their stuff, and then that really makes me calm.
I'm surprised to hear that, Arthur, because from what I've been seeing on the international news, and I have spent more time watching developments in Ukraine than I have ever done in all my life, and how is it that they where are they? Are they in Ukraine or in Poland? Because if you listen to the news, Ukraine has just become so unsafe. Russia has been bombing Ukraine, destroying practically anything that's standing, even civilian residences. And yesterday, the report was about a big theater that was full of children, and there was already Russian words, children on the front, children in the back of the theater, just so that nobody would attack it, and yet it was attacked. So where are your family members? How do they manage to contact you?
Right. So my family, they live in south of Ukraine. That area, which is so near to the escalation area, which Russia is hardly trying to invade, because this is like a strategic area. And I'm sure you've heard it in the news lately, like actually 1 week ago, there was a fire on the nuclear power station. So that was my hometown. And yeah, so they decided to be home because they feel safer there rather than just going and then cross the whole country to go to Poland or neighboring countries, because there are so many people, we call them divergents. They like in Ukrainians, but actually they're pro-Russian. So you really you don't even know because they don't wear any uniform. So there are so many instances when people are trying to leave, like the refugees, right? But their cars or the buses being shot just on the highways. So these people, they hide in the forests, and then you can get this bullet anytime. You wouldn't even expect it, even though people put like a paper on their car which says that you have children, but it still doesn't really stop them. And yes, you're right. I also been watching the news and all the updates, and it's really heartbreaking. And I feel like my heart is in blood already. Seeing all these condominiums, the civilians being bombed, and then that theater. I mean, of course, it cannot be strategical area, right? Because the first goal of Russia, I mean, that's what they claimed, was to demolish or just like to liquidate all the military infrastructure. But of course, everybody who has the brain, right? Who would believe this the theater or the maternity house or the kindergartens has this military infrastructure, right? So it's really like a heartless to do this kind of acts. And these they call them Russian animals, right? They really have no limits. They just bomb everything they see without any logic. Just like we experienced 75 years ago during the Second World War, except the difference that there was the Nazi people, and this is how Ukrainian people being called by Russians these days. And actually, that would be funny because some of our parents saying like, if you just like project or trying to imagine that you would have to talk to your grandparents because they really experienced the Second World War, that Russia would have a war with Ukraine, and then the Germany would help us. This is like really, it's all upside down now.
Mhm. Okay, now, how are there a lot of Ukrainians in the Philippines? Is there a big community or gatherings of Ukrainian? Because you're only the second person from Ukraine that I've met, and not even physically. The first one I met physically. You're the second, and virtually. But how big is the Ukrainian population in the Philippines, and are you coming together after this invasion of Ukraine?
I think our diaspora or like our community of Ukrainians are quite small but mighty one. So we are really a small number of Ukrainians here. Usually these are the expats, and then yeah, we don't really hang out these days because everybody wants to be like at least in touch with their families to help as much as they can. So, but yeah, we organized one of the events when just all started, just like gathering to take a picture with all the Ukrainian symbols, then just support our embassy, our government, and then just people, the pictures just to show that we support the world, and then we stand with Ukraine, which is the official hashtag of this war.
Yeah, you mentioned the word embassy. We actually have diplomatic ties with Ukraine? Is there an actual embassy? Because I was trying to find if there was an ambassador we could interview, and we came up with nothing, Arthur.
That's right. Yeah, there's only the official consulate that is located in Malaysia and in Japan. But I believe we have a plan already to open up it here. And the COVID started, got delayed. But I think the embassy of France in the Philippines will be on the way. But I'm sure once everything is settled over there.
Okay, now what are you doing as a Ukrainian citizen in support of your family and your countrymen? Because there have already been many appeals from different churches. In fact, I think that's one of the surprise discoveries about Ukraine, that the Ukrainian people are very spiritual, religious. You are the center for Orthodox Church. You have so many of I think, the most traditional of Jewish groups and or religion. And then you have many Catholics, and then you also have many born-again Christians. I mean, people are like, what? They have all of that in Ukraine.
Yeah. We have all of that, and we are very open-minded in terms of religion, human rights, and everything to do with this. So actually, that's why we are trying to fight for the democracy, and we don't want to be like in the totalitarian or authoritarian country, because we decided to be integrated in Europe, which is really like I think the most open-minded area in the world, right? So yeah, since you mentioned about the religion, right, we really have the different confessions, and then the Orthodox is actually coming from there. If you look at the history, yeah, that's the way to support as well. Yeah, you reach out to the churches, because these are organizations which help the refugees as well. But me personally, I'm not really in touch with the churches, although I'm religious. And then yeah, all we can do at this moment is to pray for the family, and then for the country, and then for the peace. But what I actually do is I'm in touch with my friends who are flying from the States, from Europe to the borders of Ukraine, and they are helping the refugees to locate them, to provide the transportation, the food, the basic needs. So we have this website. It's called supportukraine.org, or basically just go to the Instagram ukraine.ua. There is so much information how to help the Ukrainian military, Ukrainian people, and the refugees. So that's basically my main goal. The second would be the spreading the word and explaining the situation, what's really happening, not just on my social media, but give an interview, just like what I'm doing now, so people would be aware. And of course, awareness is really matter, because, like, let's say this is like a 21st century now, and everything is in the news. There's so much information. Basically, again, this is informational war, not just the physical war. I mean, not just the territorial war, because there's so much information. There are so many fakes from both sides, not just from the Russian side. There's so much propaganda, and then people don't really know which one is true. And sometimes I got lost too, because you don't really know the source. You don't really know, like, if it's reliable, right, the information. So I think it's really important also to talk about that, to spread the word, and then to explain, and then give the talks. So just for the general population, or for the people who are the insiders, just have a proper communication, and then discuss this kind of problem.
How do you feel about? You're going to have to say his name because I have problems pronouncing the names of Ukrainian and Russian. But President Zelensky, he's an artist, he's a actor, comedian, writer, etc. And now people are making him a model, in the sense, there are world leaders who now dress like Zelensky, who don't even shave, who have hoodies, and he's kind of redefining the image of a leader. Now, you're an artist. You dabble in painting. You are in music. You are in architecture. How does it make you feel seeing this artist becoming a world leader?
It's just really amazing, because he really became a role model for not just for people in Ukraine, but in the whole world. Because if you look at the presidents of Russia, there is always super strict. They look like generals. They trying to intimidate the whole world, because they think that's the goal, right? So everybody would be scared. But actually everybody is already scared, but they still want to play on that. But then Ukrainian one, the Zelensky, right? He has no experience really. He's a really young politician. Then he was a comedian before, and he organized, or he founded the big TV holding, which is like a group of TV channels. They did the productions of the movies, mostly like Christian movies, the funny stuff. And then after that, he took a part in this movie where he played the role of the real president.
Yeah.
And people really loved it. They really believed him. And then sometimes it just really happened. I think nobody would expect this, but he really became a president, because really people loved him, people trusted him, although not in the beginning, because so many people were skeptical. Even in my family, we have all different views. So one of my family members wouldn't really trust him, and then others would really go for him. But of course, at this time, when the serious conflict, not just the conflict, when the serious war is happening, everybody's so united. So regardless of your political views, like the life views or directions, everything is aside, because everybody is just so united to fight, and then to stay strong. And then even his circles, of Zelensky, they're doing the same thing. It's not about shaving, it's not about looking good anymore. It's not about how you dress. or what you project. It's about the actions you do, and it's about like how you support your people and make them really believe and like go after you. I mean, go for you.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Russians, etc. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I have this impression that along the borders, common borders of Ukraine and Russia, there are blood ties or there are relationships. Uh, some people say they're our sons who are killing us, etc. And I was like wondering, they used to be like family, I think. Well, and that's why I suppose many people were shocked that Russia invaded Ukraine. But how is the relationship of communities in Ukraine and here in the Philippines? I'm sure you also had Russian friends. And is it the same language? Do you guys speak one language?
All right. So actually, it's a good question. Nobody asked me. I mean, nobody dig that deep, but that's great that I'm able to talk about this. So many people, especially east and south of Ukraine, are pro. I mean, not pro-Russians, but they speak Russian language because historically it's really happened. So we speak both. Like in my school, I was learning and I was speaking the Ukrainian language, but with my friends, my family, I speak Russian. Just because that's the way it is. I mean, there are other countries like that, like Canada, right? They speak English and French, and this is not an issue. But although Russia thinks that's an issue, that if those people speak Russian, they need to be Russian all of a sudden. They don't need to be Ukrainians. I mean, again, this is like a part of propaganda. And then this is actually right. And then all the people were like brothers and sisters until now, I guess, because I don't think Ukrainians will forgive this ever. I mean, maybe for next generation, but it really it made so much, for it changed the mind completely of Ukrainians, even those who speak Russian. And actually, those who speak Russian before, they trying their best now to learn Ukrainian just to be more, not like a nationalist, but to have the pride, to support the country and the new visions. And funny enough, which is actually not really funny, but about the ties, absolutely right. I have a Russian blood. My whole family is from Russia, and I was the first one to be born in Ukraine. Although I'm, of course, I really identify myself with Ukrainian. I have a Ukrainian passport, and I forever will be Ukrainian. So it's really tricky because you understand that on the other side of the borders, there are Russians who are ready to kill you for politician views or for your future identity. I don't think it's really worth it, of course. Nobody thinks it's worth it, but that's what's happening. And that's really sad because some people, I believe, they lose their, the trust or the humanity that they can take the gun or go to the tank and just attack the civilians, which are really, they have the same blood. But of course, after this conflict, I'm quite sure, although this is not the best case scenario, but I'm sure Ukraine will be, separated from Russia further away, just because of this, unless the political situation will change, which I hope it's going to really happen.
I understand from some reports and materials that I came across that so many Russians left Russia at the beginning of the war because they said, okay, this is going to go bad. I don't want to get caught in this. They left the country. But for Ukrainians, what is the sentiment of your family, your friends? Because clearly Russia is having its way. They're bombing, and I wrote in my column today in the Philippine Star, because so many people, all of these analysts in the West have been asking that question, what is Putin's agenda? And I wrote in my column today, I said it's the scorched earth policy. Putin wants to level Ukraine. He never recognized them as an independent country or even as a people. And from the looks of it, he's going to bomb everything he can bomb and just run Ukraine to the ground. If and or when this happens, what do you think Ukrainians will do? Will they just simply leave the country and be global refugees, or are we going to see a guerrilla war from what you've heard?
So from my understanding and my point of view, I think, yeah, you're actually right. So many Russians already flew. I mean, they got out of country because they don't want to be associated with this anymore. Like so many Russians reached out to me and they were saying sorry and then trying to explain how ashamed they are for their poor political choices and what's really happening. So some like usually like more smart people, I guess, or intelligent or young also people, they don't want to stay there anymore because just in one day their future got stolen. And of course, who would like to experience this for the rest of their life? And then about Ukrainian, yes, that's correct too. I'm sure so many people already, it's more than 3 million, as I heard yesterday, already left the country. Although these people, I mean, so many of my friends also did that, the same thing, but they plan to come back once it's safer.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, Russia has been doing this for ages because, again, this is their style, I would say. They did the same for Chechnya, for Georgia, for Syria, and now they're doing this to Ukraine. So if the political views, right, are not the same, it means that you need to be out of this earth. But of course, this is 21st century. This is not has to happen like this. And Ukrainians, again, as I mentioned, everybody's so united. We have our pride, and Ukrainians will never really leave, and they will never really accept it. I wouldn't really say surrender because everybody is hoping for the negotiations because it's supposed to be diplomatic way, right? Again, it's 80 years like the Second World War. There are talks. I mean, they're not so productive at the moment, but at least they started. I mean, it's not zero, so it's better than nothing. And they're already in talk, and then they already have the negotiations. And our politicians, or politicians, yes, they are trying to calm people down, to explain it from the psychological point of view, so everybody would know really what to expect. I mean, it's written in the books already. It's a science. So all the people experiencing this kind of going down, it's like a wave. Then euphoria, then anger, then depression. Everything is really like so scheduled. And if you, because I was trying to analyze myself and my friends, and then even to my mom, like I was talking to her another day, she was in tears because she was packing the luggage because I was trying to convince them to move to the west where it's safer. And then I saw her in tears for the first time in my life. It's so heartbreaking. And after a few days, they still decided to stay because that's their choice. And then I'm talking to her, and then she was like so happy, like on this euphoria. And then she was the one who trying to calm me down because I was the one who panics for them. But what I'm saying, Ukrainians will go through this. Everybody stands with Ukraine, and I think the situation is a little bit different now, right? Because it's the whole world really supporting Ukraine, and the whole world is understanding that this is not the way to solve the problems. Even though you want to be an emperor or you want to expand your country, this is not the way to do. I mean, to at least to bomb the civilians. This is just not
So, yeah.
humanity.
So clearly, the Ukrainians are standing their ground. Initially, the people, the women and the old, the children, elderly were told to leave, go to Poland, but the tide has changed. Like in the case of your mother, they had already packed, but then they decided, no, we're staying. This is our country. This is our home. We are not going to be refugees. So, well, Arthur, our prayers are with you for your family, for your friends, for your country, that in the coming weeks, all of this will just be settled and that we can all move forward to helping Ukraine get back on its feet. And thank you. Thank you for giving us a window, giving us a face to what Ukraine is, what Ukrainians are, and we do hope and pray for the best for you. Please take care, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this. Stand with Ukraine.
Okay, stand with Ukraine. Thank you very much. That's our face to Ukraine, Arthur Tselishchev, okay, artist and Ukrainian living in the Philippines for the last 7 years. And now I leave you with our blessing for this week as we close the program. It is from Zephaniah chapter 3, verse 17. The Lord your God is in your midst, a warrior who gives victory. He will rejoice over you with gladness. He will renew you in his love. He will exalt over you with loud singing. That is our hope for all of you watching Agenda, and it is also our prayer for Ukraine, particularly in this very difficult and hard times. And we pray that we ask all of you, please pray for Ukraine. God bless you. please keep it here on One News PH.